Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. We are doing a rad little book chat today. Look, Zelda's getting comfy. I've got water. That's empty. Don't worry, this one's full. And I've got a drink as we chat The Martian. All book chats are split in two parts. The first Wednesday of the month, we'll read the first half of the book and dissect. And then the second week, we finish the book. If there's a movie, we'll watch the movie. We'll compare notes. We'll talk about it. And this is full of spoilers. So you can talk about absolutely any part of this particular book. I have wonderful community members of the Geek on Patreon sitting there in the chat. A perk for $5 means that you get to participate in the show through the Discord voice channel. If you want to be a part of that show, stop it. Who is messaging me? Bugger off. Oh, Anthony Carboni. Shush. Shush. Are you watching and you know that I'm live? Ugh. KP Dubs, that's a great pun. We're doing this. I'm sidetracked. This is ADHD-esque type behavior already. But in saying that, Michelle, thank you so much for converting that Prime sub to a Tier 1 sub. Really appreciate that. Alrighty. If you do want to be a part of the show, it's just $5 a month. You get access to 4 hours of book chat for the first 2 Wednesdays, and then you get secret access to the after show. Colleen can't hear anything? No, Colleen, why? I was chatting with you earlier and I didn't get it. That may be a computer setting. Check to see if your computer's muted. You may have a button on your keyboard that looks like a speaker with a cross through it. I have just done so much troubleshooting. Hey, Gory, can you jump into the reading section and try and help out Colleen with her sound as well? Alt Knox says, hey, much love from Texas. That's cool. That's cool. Gory says, I did, haha, but I got a mod. I will add text comments. Haha. You ha-ha'd twice. You didn't finish the book, did you? If you have a headset, make sure it isn't muted. Yeah, you are not... Oh, she's just jumped out. She might be doing a reboot. Anyway, yeah, if you want to get involved with that, we'll put the Patreon link in the chat for you. Join in. We also are sort of like the affiliate for the Nerdist Book Club, where we'll do it on the final Wednesday of the month, and then you have exclusive access to the after show, which doesn't get broadcast. It's a secret little society. Oh, everyone's posting their dinner pictures in the Discord chat. Oh, this is mean. This is a locked channel as well, so you only get access if you are a Patreon backer. Fat Black Patrick Swayze is subscribed. 12 months. Happy 1 year, boo. It is our anniversary. Yay. Alrighty, let's get stuck into this. There's so much to talk about with The Martian. I bloody love Andy Weir's writing. This is the second book that we've covered in book chat, starting with Project Hail Mary. Last week, we really kind of decided as a whole that this one's still good, but it's just not Project Hail Mary brilliance. Oh, the gummy bears. And that's because he wrote this in 2011, got published in 2014, but he released Project Hail Mary in 2021 during the pandemic. K. Frito says, such a good writer. Yeah. Ridian says, I saw a Geek burger in the Discord, and now I can't think of anything else other than Keenan and Kel, the movie. Well, Geek burger's my mum, so... Have fun with that. Speaking of, Mum, are you there? I'll introduce you to book chat because you're here for the first time. No, don't type. Unmute, please. Unmute. And do you want to introduce yourself? Because everyone who joins the book club has to say hi, introduce themselves, say where they are, and what kind of books they like to read. So go for it, Mum. I did not inherit her talking abilities. Mum, talk. Oh, no. She's unmuted. Mum, this is what people have nightmares about. We're live. We're live. We did the test. The test went great. What's happened? Did you push that audio button again? Fuck. Mum. Mummy, B-Rock Vandal says in space, no one can hear your mum. Mute is off. No, I know. But what about the computer mute? The one that we just recently fixed. Is it that button again? Because I can't hear you talk. I can't hear you talking. Do we have anyone else new that can demonstrate what it's like to say hi? And Colleen, can you hear us yet? Check in the reading, Gory, with her. Oh, fantastic. Whoa.
Yeah, I got it.
Colleen's in. Colleen's in. Fantastic. I know it is a mum take stream. Her light isn't coming on in Discord if she's trying to talk. Yeah. Hey, Mum, you remember how like the video and the audio didn't work and we had to press those buttons to activate them both? I think something's happened with your audio and you have to press the keyboard mute button because I think that your whole computer's mute. Anyway, you figure that out. We're going to go and start rating this book out of 5. Out of 5. I'm starting at the bottom now. We're here. Vaidin, what did you give this book?
All right. I gave this book a 4 out of 5.
What?
So,
Yeah. Hit me with it.
all right. So basically, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Just like Project Hail Mary. Like, I think one of the things I enjoyed most about it was just Watney's ingenuity. Like, he's constantly figuring out solutions to problems that come up, and like making use of resources for one part of the one thing from another. Just completely, like it's just ingenious a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Weir writes great science, so we're just doing a little bit of a sound test as well, crushing it because it's so loud in my ears, but it's so soft in the stream. Great, thanks, Gory, for that one. 4 out of 5. I hear you, and I like that, and good feedback. Thierry, good to have you for this book.
Hi.
What are you giving this one?
4.75 out of 5.
Okay, you gave Project Hail Mary 5 out of 5?
Yeah.
All right, so what was the 0.25 shaved off for?
Just Project Hail Mary is way better. Better.
Yep.
Yeah. Like the only thing missing in the Martian is like a funny character like Rocky.
Oh, yeah. Mum loved Rocky. Mum, have you figured it out yet? Your audio? Mum loved Rocky. She would be like, happy when we would talk. Very cute. So Thierry's given it a 4.75, the highest one so far. Sprinkles the Dragon Cat. What are you giving this one out of 5?
I'm giving it 4.
Oh, right. Okay. What did you think overall?
Well, generally in the book, like I saw the movie before I read the book. So generally I liked Matt Damon more than the book character. I did like his humor. That was the only redeeming quality. Other than that, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit. But other than that, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
All right. Yep. Okay. You and my mum share similar thoughts about that one. Mum in the chat says, amaze. Mum, we've got to fix your audio because can you say hello? You're our special featured guest for this episode. Can you say hello? What happened? We tested it and it worked. What's the difference now? Did you press the mute key on the keyboard? Nothing. No, nothing. Well, we fixed it before, so do the same thing that you did about 40 minutes ago, and that should do something here. Michelle, out of 5. Did I see 4.5?
Yes, 4.5 for me. I really loved it. It is just not Project Hail Mary, which is probably one of the best books I've ever read. So yeah. hard to give it that 5. All
right. Yep, we're on the same page with that one. Mm-hmm. I mean, The Martian is forever going to be in the shadow of Project Hail Mary. Dragon's Ghost says 4.5 out of 5 due to the storm opening. Otherwise, 5 out of 5. Oh, you didn't like the start of the book. That's interesting. Chris, I saw that you said you gave it a 7.5 out of 10, which is 800 potatoes out of 548 souls, but 3 bombs. I would love to get a little bit more insight from you why this one took a bit more of a hit. I don't think you've said it in the chat, but there you go. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about that one. Lisa, what'd you give this one out of 5? Well, I already know because I follow you on Goodreads.
Yeah, I think I'm sticking with my 4 out of 5 on this. I just couldn't connect with him as a character like I did in Project Hail Mary, and I know it's stupid to keep comparing to the other books, but I just enjoyed the other one so much more. And I don't know if it's just because I saw the movie before reading it, if maybe that's kind of tainting my liking of it, but I still enjoyed it. It's still a pretty good book, but
I do wonder,
not as good as the other one.
because we kind of decided that if we read this one first, we probably would have worshipped it, and then our faces and brains would have melted off if we then went on to Project Hail Mary. I think that, yeah, because we started with the better book, this one, I mean, it is still a good book, but the other one's just superior. But you said that you watched the movie first before reading the book. I was the opposite. I waited until I finished it completely.
Well, I didn't watch it recently. I saw it when it came out. Whenever it came out.
2015. Mom!
Yes, can you hear me?
You're so loud. You're so
Oh, well,
No, this is great. Go and say hi.
Hi.
Okay. All right, Mum. Can you tell everyone your name, where you're calling in from, and what kind of books you're into?
All right, my name is Lyndall. I'm Maude's mum. I'm signing in from Brisbane, Australia. I have a very Australian accent, I've been told.
No, you went, my name's Lyndall.
I read The Martian after I read Hail Mary Project.
So I got you onto Project Hail Mary because I thought you would love it. You did.
Yes. Sort of, yes. I loved Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky's great. What other books do you read, and how many books would you say you read a week?
Well, I've been reading. Actually, I read a few books a week. I suppose it depends on what I'm needing to do because I'm in a couple of book clubs. But I've just read The Kite Runner again because I enjoyed that very much. I'm not a big fantasy reader, generally speaking. So reading The Martian is quite different from what I normally read, and I liked the second part of The Martian. I didn't like the beginning of The Martian because I felt he kept saying, I think I'm just going to die, and there was absolutely no emotional sort of integrity about this person, and I just thought, well, then just die. But when you started to hear through other voices who he was, I started getting much more interested in him. And then I saw Matt Damon, as that other fellow said, and once you sort of get a face and a personality to Mark, you know, you're off. You see a multi-dimensional character.
Oh, she's getting into that book club discussion straight out the gate. I will say, though, you have called The Martian fantasy when it is, in fact, very much. What are you calling it? It's sci-fi.
Sci-fi. Beg your pardon?
That's all right. Because you did read a lot of fantasy, Mum. You read a lot of contemporary fantasy.
There was a lot of chemistry, and honestly, I hear blah, 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 NO2, CO3, and I just have no interest in any of that. So that's for people who love the chemistry stuff, and I've got a son who would love all this sort of stuff, that works, but it just doesn't work for me.
So, Mum, last week we spoke about the science of this book and that mass and weight were different things. How many shits do you give about that?
Small. Small number.
Because we do have like some actual scientists and engineers in the chat, and when they tried to...
I think they would love all this stuff. I think they would absolutely love all this stuff, and I think that they'd probably be doing calculations to see whether Peter Weir was correct in what he was assuming and stuff. I mean, there's a lot.
Andy Weir.
Yeah. Andy Weir.
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Peter?
Peter Weir. Okay, different Weir.
Different Weir. Swing and a miss. That's all right. What are some of your favorite books of all time?
Mine?
Yours.
All right. I liked one of my favourite books of all time is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry.
Yeah. Well, that's a dog.
Comes out. Pardon?
I can hear the dog.
Oh, yes, here's the dog. All
right. So
that's one of them.
Okay, great. Lonesome Dove.
You know, Pride and Prejudice, I guess, is one of the ones that I'd put up there. There's some Australian authors that nobody's ever going to heard of that I put up there.
Good. All right. You can mute again.
Thanks.
I love you. I love you. B Rock Vandal said that Peter Weir is an Australian film director. Yeah, I think that's where Mum was getting that. Sade Robot just followed. Hello, welcome to Book Chat. That's my mum. Mum's talking about the book. We're going to get into the psychology of it all, but there's a couple of us that have mentioned so far that book Mark Watney isn't just compelling. We had a really big chat in the first week about how he's doing science logs and science entries, and we are not getting his inner thoughts, his emotions, his who he is as a person. We see humor slip in as a coping mechanism, but we just don't have a tangible grasp on who he is as a character, which is why people thought that the movie was a little better, because you can see, feel, hear who Mark Watney is thanks to Matt Damon's portrayal. Or, as Mum was saying, and this is again something that others have said about the book, once we get back to earth and we have those sort of conversations about Mark Watney, it fleshes him out a little bit more. But great insights there. KP Dubs, what did you give this one out of 5?
I give it a 5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I would say
it's weird.
Project Hail Mary. Yeah, sorry. I would say Project Hail Mary is probably the better written book, better laid out book, better character story development. But I just liked, I don't know, I liked how it was just nonstop. There was, like he was saying in the book, there's always a problem. What's going to kill me on Mars next? And I don't know, I just got into that. I liked all the science, and I liked it. There was no downtime for him to relax. It was just like, okay, this blew up. Okay, now this broke. Okay, now I got to fix this. And if I hadn't been in a book club, I probably would have read it all in one day.
Wow.
I had to pace myself. It was so hard to put down about 10 different times.
Wow. This is so great. You're back into reading in a big way.
Yeah.
That's
also,
cool.
I'm glad I did not see the movie until after the book. And I didn't really like a lot of the things that were left out of the book in the movie. I thought the movie was fine, but he had to traverse the storm, and that was left out, and they did a bunch of different things with like the way the rover and trailer and everything was set up, and not a big fan of the changes, but I can see why they did it, not make a 6-hour movie out of it. So I was okay with the movie, but I definitely like the book better.
We're going to have a big discussion about those changes and comparisons between the movie and the book, big time. Mum's got thoughts on that as well. Play the board. You are not in the Discord, but I did see that you gave it a 5 out of 5. Read it at release. I love Mars. I love Mark. I love survival fiction. It was perfect. Play the board. Double checking. Did you read Project Hail Mary as well? I'd love to get those thoughts because nearly all of us gave Project Hail Mary a 5 out of 5. And I think that's why a couple of these are a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5 in comparison. Black Belt says, 20 minutes late finishing the book, but I'm here, second time reading, and loved it just as much as the first time. And Oddball says 4 out of 5, but my favorite character was Annie, the press secretary in the book. Yes, the chief of press. What was it? I've got it right here. She's the public relations chief, PR. Used a bit of a stereotype there, but I think it was still very, very funny. GNU user says, I guess I'm the minority. I think I liked The Martian better than Hail Mary because I did enjoy all the science. We have realized that if you are left-brained, You are eating up the science of this book and it is not bogging you down and you understand it immensely. If you are like my mum and I and Lisa and others who are very right side of the brain, it was just like, yes, but how are you feeling right now? I need to be able to connect with emotions for this to make more sense. Black Belt says 5 out of 5 for The Martian. I think I like it better than Project Hail Mary, which I also gave a 5 out of 5. They are really close. Darcy's in the chat. Darcy's here. That's 3 out of 5 of my family members. Yay. Darcy says mum didn't like the science. But Darcy, you understand science a lot better. There's a Dorizo chip for you. Did you read this book or did you like the science? Because we tried to rope you into reading Project Hail Mary as well. It's on your list. You got to start it. I know that you've been going through some stuff. You should take it in. Just take a book with you everywhere you go, just in case. Clever Girl says, I have a shirt that says, a moment of science, please. That's great. That's a great shirt. Michelle says, I really like the experience of piecing together Mark's personality through the daily log style. It was an interesting change to have to uncover this person through his paperwork. Lol. We're moving on to Jay Buntrock. What'd you give this 1 out of 5? Give us a couple of sentences on your thoughts.
Hello, I gave it 4 out of 5, mainly because it's not Project Hail Mary. I love the book, and I guess just the one thing was I thought there was just, I guess opposite of KP Dubs, I thought there was just too much of the death-defying. I think it was just the astronomical odds to survive. I thought it was just one too many times he was that close to death.
Right, and you're like, help this poor guy out.
You're just always at a high, and you never get to the low because, the next event's coming.
Yeah, true. We are condensing a year and a half on the planet stranded by himself, though, in the space of a book. But I get it. I do get it. Aaron says, I have a friend who is a voracious reader, would be the type if he could wear a gun holster designed for books instead. Oh, that's great. Play the Board says, yeah, but I read Hail Mary second. I enjoyed Rocky. I didn't really buy the science and the situation, but I felt like The Martian could happen. Interesting feedback about that one. Yeah, we all love Rocky. We're Team Rocky over here. Aaron, out of 5, your turn.
Hi. So yeah, I put down 4.5 out of 5. And mostly I'm basing it off of memory because I only read it the one time. This was like after the movie came out, but I always remember kind of like what your mom was saying is like, and we all kind of agree on. Mark's kind of bland in the book. It's still exciting hearing him reading about all his stuff. But Matt Damon's just better at portraying Mark than the book version did. So, otherwise, yeah, I still love the science, like everybody says, his problem-solving stuff. Also, on the movie side, if you watch the extended thing, don't ever look up that word Felcher.
Oh, don't bring it up.
Just don't.
No, I don't know why they're
saying that. If you don't know what it is, you're lucky. I made the mistake.
Wasn't he supposed to do the picture of the boobs and instead they just they had to take it to an 11? I just don't think a botanist would say that word. Anyway.
But yeah, basically that little critique with him just being bland in the book is like the only reason it's down half a point for rating. Otherwise, love the whole thing.
Yeah, you had a good time. I like that. Darian, out of 5, what did you give this one? What are your thoughts?
Hey everybody, I gave this a 5. I read this back in December 2018 and I listened to it again during the pandemic and I loved it both times. So yeah, this one is a 5 for me.
Yeah, we got a 5. How did you enjoy the science of it all?
I enjoyed it, and this is from somebody who almost failed A-level chem. I hate chemistry, but I really enjoyed the science in this book.
Thierry, we said not to look it up. What are you doing? We said not to look it up. He says instant regret. We're going to just ruin everyone's night now. Mum, don't look it up. Please, for the love of God. Mum, don't look it up. Colleen, you loving the science. Last week you pointed out an actual science flaw in how this book was written. How did you like the second half of the book?
I love this book. I really like Project Terry Mail. Mary, yeah, sorry, not much sleep last night.
That's the best. That's the best dyslexic kind of confusion of it. Project Hairy Male is up there with Felch. That's so great. That's made my night. Thank you.
But I still gave this one a 5. And apparently a lot of people found Mark bland, but his snarky sense of humor is really what I related to. I think sarcasm may be my first language. And so relating to, well, his sense of humor reminds me of the humor that we had in my science department.
Oh, wow.
You know, just kind of this deadpan sort of stuff. So, and I actually liked Mark Watney in the book better than Matt Damon. Matt Damon did a really good job of the visual. I think he showed parts, the emotional part that the book didn't show. But I loved the character of Mark Watney in the book. His resilience, his snarkiness, and yeah, that boobs thing is absolutely something that
you would have done, Colleen?
Well, at least one of my colleagues would have done.
Got it.
That's, yeah, middle school teachers end up being a whole lot like middle school students after a while.
Yeah, you become a part of your environment. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for the thoughts on that one. We will get a little bit more into book Watney versus movie Watney because people have thoughts on that one. Last but not least, Catch 22. Would you give this one out of 5? Oh, also, we are loving Project Hairy Male. Like, that is just started a whole new conversation. Oh, that's great. But sorry, Catch.
I'm actually downgrading from the first half. I gave it a solid 4 in the first half, and now I'm kind of a soft 4 after the second half, which is going to sound weird because the climax of the book actually gave me a bit of an adrenaline rush, which was kind of cool. But yeah, there were some things that happened in the second half of the book that was like, not really though, but that's just me science braining things.
Well, you're going to have to break it down for us because some of us, Mum and I.
Okay, they sort of took care of it in the book where they were talking about the MAV needing extra fuel because it had to get out of orbit, right? Because it was only built for low Mars orbit and had to break orbit so that the Hermes could catch it.
Yes, I understand that so far.
So then they took the top off.
Yeah.
And then they took the windows out.
Yeah.
And then they covered them with a rag.
Yeah.
And so realistically, because of that, and they mentioned it when Martinez was trying to fly the MAV, he was like, it's fighting me, it's slower than it should be. Well, it's because the rag was causing drag, right? Which would mean that it would need even more fuel than they predicted that it would need.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking about the whole time.
Broke it completely and made it useless, but somehow it still worked.
I'm gonna check in with Mama G. Mum, did that make any sense to you? This is a safe space. You can let us know. Mum?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes, it did. It did make sense. I think that he's right. I mean, I agree that the last part where he's getting onto the spaceship and that whole thing was very, very suspenseful. I thought one of the better suspenses of the movie was when, like, Earth knew that this dust storm was coming like a month in advance, and they are not able to communicate with Mark. and he's going through the valley and everything's going nicely and he's got his rovers and the whole bit, and you know that this dust storm is about to come, and you know that he's not necessarily going to be able to see and get oxygen and that. And I thought that was actually quite fun.
So
you know, just that building suspense, you know, and then it took quite a while before the dust storm actually arrived. So I thought that was actually quite clever. I like that. Anyway, I'll unmute.
Yeah, that was in the book and not the movie, because they opted to not share or not include when Watney lost communication, and that only exists in Suspense when Earth can see what's happening and has a full sort of satellite view of what Mars is, and they aren't able to communicate to Watney that he is driving into a certain disaster. But I really like that point as well, because you're here going, everyone's going, he's gonna die. His logic says he's going to keep driving into that. He won't even really notice until it's too late. This is what's going to kill him. And you get to see sort of like in real time him use his science to figure it out. And you almost have this relief and you're like, God, this guy's really smart. So that was a good part. And thank you for chiming in with that one. Some of the things that I would like to talk about, I have the document up here. Just to kind of rehash on what happened in the second half of the book. We picked up from the end of Soul 19. We ended halfway through the book is very, very suspenseful because the hab canvas breaches. So the airlock is torn. It fires him off. It cracks his helmet. All the crops are ruined. So, you know, the timeline kind of goes, he got stranded. He's absolutely fucked. Is he? He's a botanist. He starts planting. He's got 800 days of food. He's kind of figuring it all out. And then it's all wiped. And he's starting from the bottom again. NASA decides to send a supply probe that's scheduled for 8:56. They want to skip the safety standard checks to send that probe out faster. But on live television, the launch, which starts off great, and I liked in the book that it really, really told you, and I kind of wish that they did like a CIS, went in there and you saw the bolt and like the way that the food liquefied into a sludge, which then hit the compartment, which then put direct amount of sort of impact on one part, and you see that the bolt's not all the way in, whatever it is. I kind of wish that you saw that. The probe part wasn't that interesting in the movie. Yeah, okay, Frito, you're exactly right. And I wish that you saw that it was so close, but because they sped it up, it didn't work. I guess they had to kind of like tell a long story in a very short amount of time. So China comes in. They're like, we got a booster. We're going to be like sort of space heroes alongside America. We're going to put a Chinese astronaut on the moon. I mean, on Mars, but it's going to come at the cost of this booster that we've been working on for years. And then you got Rich Purnell. And Rich Purnell is an astrodynamicist who figures out a way to use the propulsion of the Hermes to literally do a pickup with the supplies and then shoot back to Mars to then intercept with Watney, shaving off like 310 days from the original. The Rich Purnell maneuver. What I think is really interesting here, though, is that Teddy, the NASA director, doesn't think they have two options. They don't think that they should involve the Hermes crew at all because it's more likely to work, but there's 6 people at risk, whereas this other one where they just shoot food into Mars and hope that it works, it's only either going to maybe kill one person. I'd love to break that down as well. I guess we can do that now. What I wanted to ask was, whose side were you on in that moment? Were you on Teddy's side or Mitch Henderson's side? They butted heads before, where Teddy didn't think that the astronauts should know that they'd left him behind until they had a viable solution. Whereas Mitch said, you have to understand that astronauts have to have the most resilience out there. Tell them everything, keep them looped in, and give them the choice. Exactly, Chris. So anyone who kind of wants to jump in here, whose side were you on? Were you Team Teddy or were you Team Mitch in this instance? Or could you understand sort of the perspective on both sides? Or could you understand neither of it because we don't work at NASA? Who has thoughts for that one?
I'll go.
Go, Colleen.
I definitely sided with Mitch. I could understand Teddy's viewpoint, but the astronauts needed to have the option themselves. I don't think it was fair to keep information from them. When you work that closely with people for that long, it's you become more than just acquaintances, more than just friends. You've been holding each other's life in your hands for the whole project, really. So I think they had the right to know.
Agree completely with that. And that's, we're tapping into sort of humanity in that instance. We're removing the science and we're actually allowing them to be real people to process it all. Catch-22 says it's an interesting psychological issue. What do you mean by that?
Just thinking that they had, months to fly back to Earth thinking that Watney was dead.
Yeah.
Right? And as Pauline mentioned, obviously they'd been on this project forever. They were very close friends, et cetera, versus telling them that he's alive and now he's on Mars by himself and he's probably going to die, which in some cases may actually be worse because then you're stuck with I left him there and now he's going to die because I left him there.
Yeah. A lot of people weighing in on this one. Oh, yeah, keep going.
I was just saying, which is kind of one of those, you put one in each hand and which one is worse. You know what I mean? And that,
yeah,
like I said, it's a psychological thing because everybody would react to those two things differently. But
I like to call it a situation. It's where the only two options are pretty shitty. And so it's a situation. It's also when you shoot yourself. Oh, sorry, Mum. Oddball says, Team Mitch, the other plan had a way more risk and was more likely to fail. Vaidin understood both, practically speaking. Teddy makes sense, but I ended up on Mitch's side. Michelle, you have a really good insight into this one. Astronauts are also assets. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So they have a ton of training and actual real life practical experience in space, going through space. There are very few people who have the man hours in space to contribute their knowledge. Like a lot of NASA employees, all the smartest people in the world, but so few of them have that actual space experience. So why would you not use that as a problem-solving tool? Ultimately, it's down to their commander on what they do and NASA, and they could work through all their problems. I get Teddy's points because he is facing losing funding for the entirety of NASA forever and ever until they decide that if everything goes bust. But at the same time, you're also not using your resources properly if you ignore the biggest resource they have, which is an already manned ship in space.
I agree. Jimmy says, Team Teddy. He's concerned for everyone's well-being. He possibly loved them. Yeah, I think it was more of a risk. He saw them as assets and he wasn't willing to compromise them at any cost. B-Rock Vandal says, you've got some brilliant minds on Hermes who could really contribute. And K. Frito says, exactly. They had the chance to use them sooner in the book, the other astronauts, to help Mark. KP Dub says, look, you can see Teddy's side, but he's a bureaucrat. He has to take the human element out of the equation. I side with Mitch. And Aaron says, Teddy was right to hold off till they had a real plan, but I always had the impression that he wanted to not tell them till they were on Earth. I know, we just needed that to make sense a little more, whether that was his game of chess and he was kind of keeping them out, taking them off the board in a way. Mom, looking at the psychology behind that, are you Team Teddy or are you Team Mitch?
When I was watching the movie, had a really big problem with Mitch as a character because I felt that they'd picked, Sean Bean because he was part of the crew from the Lord of the Rings, as a little sort of token thing for the Elrond
Project Elrond,
that they had. Yeah, so I thought he was so miscast, and in the book he's sort of a big burly kind of Texas guy or something, and he was just wrong. So, but his sentiments as Mitch, I got that he has a lot more investment in these guys. He's there for them, whereas Teddy's, he's there for the entire unit, and I got both their perspectives, but I certainly was siding with Mitch, I guess.
I agree about the miscasting. Jeff Daniels and Sean Bean were almost interchangeable. They weren't distinct at all. I guess, Sean Bean got his accent, but you're right. I pictured like a football coach from Texas, That's the energy that I was getting.
Yeah, Mitch, what's his name? McConaughey. What's his first name? Matthew McConaughey type character.
McConaughey.
A bit more interesting. Yeah.
Got it.
McConaughey?
McConaughey.
Thank you.
You're good. Don't worry.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm an entertainment reporter, so I got you. Hey, Mum, quickly check in the reading chat. Chris has designed a new Geek Bomb logo, but a Geek burger. What do you think of it?
I can't see it. I can't see a lot of things on this screen, Maude.
Click reading. The reading part.
I can't see anything.
Oh, you got to scroll down to the bottom of the chat. Remember the scroll? Remember the little bar that you got to drag down because you don't have a mouse?
I'm having a moment of ineptitude, I'm afraid.
You know what?
I just don't understand. I need to work this little program by myself quietly so I can do it properly later. Now, what was the question? You had a question for me?
The psychology behind Mitch and Teddy, but you went into the fact that Sean Bean was miscast. Well done.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. You could have had you could have had a brilliant moment of psychology, but instead you got the shits over the casting.
Yeah, but I did. Can I talk about the loneliness? As you're talking about the psychology.
Oh yes.
I felt that the whole movie, when I first read the first part and I was very bored with the whole sort of chemistry thing, I was thinking this guy is, he's in an absolute state where he is going to die almost every second of the day. And I kept thinking, what would that be like if I was in that situation? And he's a real pragmatist and he's, bright and he's a real problem solver. And I thought he's just living with this idea that any second I could die. And I thought, that sort of came across in a very bland way in the beginning of the book. But then as I kept reading through it, I kept thinking, I think that Andy Weir is really kind of nailing how he must be sort of teetering on the edge of practicality, but also going, holy shit, this is so intense, this is so life-threatening, And I think over time, you got this sort of accumulation of that level of threat that he was experiencing, and I quite like that. But that's coupled also with the loneliness that he's experiencing. This is a really social guy. He's got a great sense of humour, like Colin was saying, and he's sarcastic and ironic. He's that loneliness and aloneness and isolation and social deprivation and all those things that he's experiencing really sort of come out quite a lot later in the book. And I think Weir does that very well, surprisingly well, actually.
Okay. I love that. Thanks. Thierry's actually just posted a video in the reading chat, a site called Cinema Therapy, where a therapist reacts to the extreme isolation. I remember and I brought this up a couple of times, but it really did shape my life, especially the time when I was reading it. During the pandemic, I was reading a book by Brené Brown, who is a shame researcher, but talks about what humans need on a fundamental level, and that is connection. And then she also said, was talking about studies that they did centuries ago where they wouldn't hold or touch babies, and a lot of them became deformed or died because there was no literal human connection, which is why newborns are placed on skin to get that connection that's necessary, literally necessary to survive. And then there was like a throwaway line where it's like the average person requires about 7 hugs a day. And this was 4 months into the pandemic where I hadn't really seen anyone else the whole time. And I was like, Mum knows how much I love her hugs, and that's what I miss the most about my mother. Love her hugs. But yeah, something like 7 hugs a day. We just need that sort of like that level of connection, not necessarily intimacy, but a connection, like a physical connection that we have. That's why hugging was a lot of like introduced or expressed with love or expressed when you congratulate. That's the what we kind of crave in that instance. So yeah, you're right. It's really evident that Mark Watney was somewhat of an extrovert. The first thing that he did was started logging, you know, and he craved connection. I wept like a child in the movie when he finally saw Jessica Chastain's character, Melissa Lewis, where he just breaks down. And in the book, it's Beck, and he goes, I just need a minute because I haven't seen a person in, 500 days. So you kind of get what it would be like. What I think the movie did really well as well was show him literally wasting away. Having those moments where you just see how he's starved, and it's like he's been physically denied, and like physically wasting away, emotionally wasting away, and you just see sort of what both of those are like. Chris says, oh, we're talking about the last choice. Lose one for sure or risk them all. Take the choice away from them or put it on yourself. Remove some guilt from the crew or give them the choice when they're dealing with a lose. But if you could reverse the biggest regret in your life, would you take it? I think I would. Colleen says, I'm reading an autobiography of a Holocaust survivor right now, and the feeling that they could die any minute but refused to give in reminds me of this. Aaron says, even introverts who are socially more reserved do want connection, but on their terms. And then they'll walk away to recharge. I'm an introvert, so I can attest, says Game Wizard. I also recharge on my own. And Aaron says he had to ration so heavily to preserve food, which is also psychologically affecting him too. The fact that he was eating the same meal, potato, day in, day out. There have also been studies, depending on how you look at food. Some people can see food as just energy. I am not one of those people. I am someone who enjoys food. And so I thought that moment in the book where he starts rationing for milestone moments so he could celebrate by not eating potato for that particular meal really spoke as well. What? Maude, your mum is posting hugs in the stream chat channel. What's the stream chat channel? Oh, the reading? Mum, what are you doing? That's sweet that you're doing that. Oh, maybe I took that literally. Michelle says there's also individuals who seek extreme situations, not out of a need to get away from people, but for the thrill of the situation itself. The risk and isolation come second to the task/mission/adventure. Interesting thought. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Because he handles the extremeness. Oh, I could probably die. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'd be like, okay, today's my last day. Goodbye. I would not have handled it. Aaron says, oh, he ran out of ketchup long before he left, so he couldn't even spice it up. He just simply heated a potato. It was, yeah. Oh, then Chris says no microwave on test trips. You had to eat the potatoes raw. Guy says one of the lines that chokes me up in the movie every time is when they rescue Mark and they said, we got him. You felt that relief from everyone. I just felt like that emotion fell flatter for me in the book. Interesting. Yeah. It was not anticlimactic, but didn't have that punch because it doesn't have the score. It's the music that really sets that emotion as well. I'm not hearing any of my alerts for some reason. I can't hear them. And I don't know why. But thank you so much for the follow, Arlen SF. We are doing book chat. We're talking about The Martian. When he tried potato tea. Eliza, I know. Blech. Like, this guy was just trying anything. Oh, he pre-cooked them before leaving the hab. Got it. Mark hated potatoes so much he wanted to move to Perth. Raw potatoes seasoned with Vicodin. Yeah, he was eating potatoes raw. So there you have it. Vicodin and potato. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not getting mum's hugs. No French fries. That ain't happening. Okay, so another conversation that I wanted to bring up was China stepping up to sacrifice their boosters to get a Chinese man on Mars. immediately, because we have read Project Hail Mary, and this is something that Mum and I have touched upon as well, this theme of uniting somewhat, not warring nations necessarily, but very ununified nations. I mean, we found out that China has basically classified all of their intel, all of their missions. They are keeping a lot of things secret, and yet they're willing to expose sort of not only their science, but their equipment to help America. Is it so that they can get some glory in the moment? Yes. But when you actually use Project Hail Mary to add to this, his theme of unifying nations and using space as something that is bigger than us, and space is what brings humanity together. Does anyone have any thoughts about this and why Andy Weir is kind of pushing this theme in quite a few of his books? Does anyone want to have a discussion about unity as a theme?
I have something.
Let's go.
I was reading this thing a while ago where it was talking about why people commit crimes, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And someone was saying that, like, if there was someone in their life, be it, whomever, forced them to do better, you know what I mean? Like, basically, like, a authoritarian figure, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Then they would be less likely to commit those crimes.
Right.
So I see why Andy Weir would be like, okay, this is bigger than everyone. So, simple logic means that you have to agree with us for the greater good, because if you don't, you're going to look pretty terrible, and it's not going to benefit anyone. It's only going to make the situation worse. That's my logic.
I hear you on that, but what's really interesting is that a lot of villains, whether fictional or whatever, truly use the greater good as their motive behind their actions. And who gets to decide what truly is the greater good for everyone? That's where there's a gray area with all of that.
Certainly not.
Chris says adversarial nations working together for a moral and logistical goal. Michelle's using the quote, "We have to keep this between scientists," and Toaster Poster saying, yeah, no governments, just a deal between scientists. I love that so much. One of Mum's favorite thing about Project Hail Mary, Mum, do you remember Strat, the character who just got full autonomy, who got full say, got absolute clearance to make every decision, and we're like,
yes, the woman,
yeah,
the
and it's like,
female.
does a person like that even does a person like that even exist that can make every correct decision for said greater good?
Well, yes. Well, that's what we had discussed, and the ramifications of giving that much power to one particular person. But the other thing about the science is, I think Andy Weir is really pushing the idea that, if, for example, and I'm talking about Project Hairy, what was it? Hairy
Male?
That's
so good.
With that particular book, he's really sort of giving the impression. I mean, if the scientist was a military person and had met up with another alien thing, you sort of get the feeling that they're coming from a very shoot now, guess later sort of scenario. Because they were scientists, there's that curiosity, that said keenness. They shared a language, they worked together. I mean, I think he, in all his the two books that I've read, he seems to foster that idea that science is central, science is incredibly important, science is life-changing and life-saving, and that we really shouldn't discount science in any way. I guess that's what I'm thinking he's trying to say.
Yeah. Michelle says Weir's books are about hope through science. I see this theme as his hope for science. And KP Dub's saying science is a universal language. The formulae are the same, just pronunciation of the names is different. And that's what Mum's saying about Ryland, Grace, and Rocky. had that been, you know, someone who was military, it was just like, you know, destroy. But and the way that Andy had written, sort of like meeting this, you know, geode type alien race, was that they initially decided to communicate. And you're right, they were so inquisitive and curious, but also starved for connection, having been on their own where their entire crew has died. They're bypassing all fear. And I've got a lot of arguments about America being a very fear-mongering country, where they communicated and used science as their main way to connect. And yeah, scientists aren't, they're literally solution-based people, aren't they? Science is answers for things. And it's all fact, you know, it's indisputable. Michelle says, we can compare how the science serves the story in Weir's books with Dark Matter by Crouch, where science is almost the antagonist. You coming in with the goods today, Michelle. Let's unmute and talk about that.
Sure. So, you know, the science in Dark Matter is the instigating incident to all the problems that happen to the protagonist in that book, and it keeps like it's an exponential problem, right? Like the science leads to exponential problems of himself in multiple timelines and all that quantum physics stuff. But in Weir's books, the science is the tool for the protagonist to overcome. So I think, you know, it's very like, it's just such a different use of it. You know, it's such an interesting comparison. We've been really lucky to read such good science fiction this year.
And I didn't even put that together. You're right. They were both science fiction in a way. One used it as a thriller element and one used it in survival. And it's, yeah, you're right. There is science a friend or a science foe in this instance? And you've seen both sides of it. And it really, I guess
science is just science, right? Like it is, you know, that's how it's supposed to be. But once you add the human element to it, it is political. It has points of view once you add the human element to it. But science itself in isolation is just science. It has no, you know, morality.
And I think you're exactly right. Whoever's wielding the science has the choice to go, you know, lawful good or chaotic evil, because chemistry is saving lives, building matter, you know, using science in a very positive way, making medicine. Science is also, chemistry, is also on the other scale, bombs, nuclear
Mark
warfare.
has to use a nuclear isotope to heat himself, but it can also give him terrible cancer.
Yeah.
And blow them up.
Science. So I kind of, you know, that's actually made me appreciate science so much more instead of periodically despising it. We got a science pun in there. Thierry says, I feel like military has two trains of thought. Kill first or how to weaponize it. Does anyone want to confirm or deny that in this chat? Also, Lisa, I'm with you completely, where it's like every time I hear the greater good, I also do that. Thank you, Hot Fuzz. A very, very, very funny movie. I think that the military, you know, when it comes to fictional stories, it can also be weaponized, you know, by sidestepping logic and just using control. So, you know, take that how you will. Jay Buntrock has done a screenshot of Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeting when The Martian came out, saying, in the Martian movie, they got crucial science right while enhancing the story by fictionalizing the science that remained. Even that's a bit too smart for me. You should be like a scientist or something. Aaron says, yeah, this book shows that science is the only way to save his life. If he doesn't work the problem scientifically, he would die. The end scene in the movie, and I'm glad you said that because it really packed a punch, and I think it's what the book was missing. And that was just showing his survival and the importance of it and the big lesson by literally putting it in a like lecture lesson. The end scene in the movie, in the school lecture, explaining you work the problem. You solve enough problems, you get to come home. I love that moment. Any question? Every hand goes up. I love that, which is, again, science being naturally curious. Mum, you've got some thoughts. Do you want to unmute and share what you just wrote?
I'm unmuting. Well, I'm thinking that The Martian was really, I mean, it was a very strong emphasis on we bring our men home, you know, in some way. Mark's on Mars and he's alone and he's going to die. And there's sort of a very strong understanding, you know, we'll get him one way or another. So the billions and billions and billions of dollars and, you know, projects that they've set aside to do this have really highlighted the idea that, you know, the American government or the American space projects or the, you know, it's very much a military sort of philosophy that we bring our soldiers home. So I thought that was quite strong throughout the book.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. No, I hear what you're saying with that one. I think in this instance, you know, they want to bring the astronauts home because they're literally a multi-million-dollar investment, you know, for furthering space. And an argument could be made, why is it so important for America to secure knowledge in space? And I didn't know this until I kind of watched a new Apple TV show about, it was a fictional retelling where, like, you know, a different version of true events where what would happen if Russia won the space war. But learning about China, America, and Russia's all, you know, it was called a space war. Who could be the first to get the man on the moon for all of mankind? That's it. K. Frito, well done. And how it almost got political. And it's this, you know, ownership over who was the best and millions of dollars. Space race. It was a race. Yes, you're right. It felt like war. I've never been to war. That was a terrible exaggeration. But the space race was almost the height of the Cold War, says Catch-22. Yeah, so like having all that backing it. Is that Mom, mute. Oh, what is that noise? I get to yell at my mum on a stream. It's a good day. It's a good day. I love you, Mum. We have Steel Lungs coming in saying, hello, first time here, long time fan. Hello, Steel. We're doing book chat. We cover a book a month. It's the first 2 Wednesdays of the month. First half, we talk about the first half of the book. Second stream that we do is talking about the whole book. In this case, because it was a movie as well, we watched the movie and we're going to be talking about the differences between the book and the movie, who did what better, how all that went. And KP Dubs just gifted you a sub. Welcome to the community. Alvac says, needs water. Let's science the shit out of this. Needs electricity. Let's science the shit out of this. Needs fertilizer for potatoes. Let's never speak of this again. Very, very funny. Oddball says, I would refer to the book Accessory to War by Neil deGrasse Tyson about dual-use technology. Oh, that's way too much science for me, but it does sound interesting. I'll give you that. Steel Lung says, I read a book called The Man Who Knew the Way to the Moon about the guy who spearheaded the Lunar Orbit Rendezvous model. All right, you're in good company here. I'll say that, that's for sure. Alrighty, next question that I had. Oh, I actually wanted to talk about how The Martian first came about. So Andy Weir obviously knows his science very, very well. That's what he loves writing about. He's got an obsession with space that's quite next level. But he started writing as like Mark Watney journal entries. What did they call it? This is coming from the Wikipedia page. The Martian is a 2011 science fiction debut novel by Andy Weir. The book was originally self-published on Weir's blog in a serialized format. So he was kind of uploading a post as if he was Mark Watney, kind of like doing these scientific journal entries. In 2014, the book was re-released after Crown Publishing Group purchased the exclusive publishing rights. And then by October 2015... it was already a feature movie with Ridley Scott directing and Matt Damon attached. So I don't think that there's any way that this book was published in 2014, a script was written, and that kind of budget of that movie was made and then put out in the 12 to 18 months between the two. I think that someone's seen Andy Weir's blog and just went, we've got to jump on this. I don't know. That timeline is just really, really interesting. He self-published in 2011 and then went on to publish in Crown in February of 2014. Unless like the day it came out, it was a bestseller and they just stamped it and went full steam ahead. Anyway, I thought that was really, really interesting. And Andy Weir has written a few more books since then. We've already covered Project Hail Mary, which came out in 2021, that he wrote during the pandemic. If you haven't read it, we're all pretty much giving it a 5 out of 5. We love it to bits. K. Frito says, I think they mentioned the book and movie options happened at the same time. So basically like chapters released in magazines. A little bit like that. Is this Weir's NASA fanfic? Pretty much. Yeah, it was like a what if that he just started sort of doing entries for. This story and film made me never want to be stuck in a situation where all I could listen to was disco music, says Aaron. I think I've got a little bit more of a threshold than the average person, maybe. I don't know how or why, but I do. Yeah, so that's just something about the history of how this all came about. Alrighty, now let's get stuck into... Oh, wait, there's some... No, we'll do movie versus book. We all watched the movie, yeah? Did he write the screenplay? Great question, Mum. Putting me on the spot like that. Drew Goddard adapted the screenplay. So no, Drew Goddard did it. Oh, here you go. Producer Simon Kinberg, who people might know from the X-Men franchise, Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Sherlock Holmes, began developing the film after Fox optioned the novel in March 2013. So this is prior to it being published for the first time. Drew Goddard adapted into a screenplay and was initially attached to direct, but the film did not move forward. Ridley Scott then replaced Goddard as director, and with Damon in place as the main character, production was approved. So if you don't know, Ridley Scott and Matt Damon have worked together many, many, many times. The latest being The Duel. Is that what it was called? I hated that movie. But yeah, they're pretty tight, those two. Goddard directed the pilot of The Good Place, says Darian in the chat. Ooh. Lisa says, did I miss it being said in the beginning, where's Miss Necromancer? I'm not sure. But she's missed. Very much. Hopefully you get the VOD. And Last Duel. Thank you, Darian. Yeah, I did not love that movie. I just thought it was awful. Would Lewis still save Watney in the movie if it was filmed now? Or would they have Beck save him since Sebastian Stan is a big star now? I think that's an interesting take. I actually think that was more for closure. Lewis was beating herself up over leaving him behind. And so I think that they made the decision to have her right that wrong. And it needed to be her that saved the day in that moment. Not necessarily that she was higher billed. Sebastian Stan being an astronaut, sure. All right, sure. All right, let's talk about this movie then. What did they miss? What were the changes that were made? How did the directing convey science and mood and emotion? What did we think of the casting? And did you prefer written Mark Watney or Matt Damon Mark Watney? Oh, K. Frito says Jessica Chastain talked about it. Relay, what was the paraphrased goods from that one? Aaron said, plus she was the commander, so wanted to not leave a crew member under command be lost again. Yeah. Colleen says, I think it was unrealistic that the commander would do that rescue. Terry says, oh, so many Marvel actors in the movie. Cash22 said, yeah, it was 100% about closure. Gaia says it was a far better choice to have Lewis save him. She abandoned him. She rescued him. KP Dub says NASA trains people for a job. That person does that job. Ooh, people are cranky or understanding. There's a poll to be had. Let's get a poll up. Do you prefer Beck saving Watney or Lewis going out saving Watney? Let's get that vote because I'm seeing it quite split. Chris says, okay, do you think it would still have been good if he didn't make it, but they got his body back with the USB of his log? Oh my God, that's such a tragedy, Chris. I don't think that could have happened. Oh, I think that would have been too hard. And I think people would have been like, nah. What's up, Hailang? Good to have you here. Play the Board says, I hated that change too, but I responded to a writing prompt one time and I changed it to Abby from the Dresden Files. So I can't really judge. Oh, okay. Kay Frito says she liked the part in this movie that women can save the man for once. Cash22 says that's why, the movie needed more drama and that's why the whole thing happened the way it did. Cherry says Lois, because she didn't want to put the blame on another crew member if it didn't go to plan. Lewis. Oh, sorry, Lewis. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't want to risk someone else. Like, yeah. Who should have saved Watney? Was it Beck or Lewis? Cast your vote. Let's see how that one goes. So for those that don't know, in the book, Dr. Beck, he was a specialist in sort of like outside spacecraft anything. So he was better suited for that. That was technically his job. Lewis was the commander. In the book, it was Beck that went out and pulled Watney to safety. In the movie, Beck was initially assigned to do it, but Lewis changes her mind and she decides to be the one to do it. Commander's orders. Yeah. Sprinkle says Beck had one job. Let him do it. Yeah, he's also the doctor, but we didn't really see him utilize that ever. Toaster Poster says, I think it makes sense that Beck gets Mark because Mark had broken ribs and needed that medical attention. At the moment, I don't know, Mum, if you're on the Twitch, you can cast your vote in the poll. That was a pun. Oh, Mum, no,
Yeah.
no, it's too loud. There's feedback. No good. I love you, but no, that was not fun. I don't know what happened. It was all right before. Maybe you need to push the computer away from you just a little bit. It's getting feedback. B-Rock Vandal says, I do like that they gave Watney his Iron Man moment in the movie. Oh, it's raining there. Mum, what's rain? I live in LA. I don't even know what rain is. We're 10 votes apiece. It's neck and neck. Oh, it wasn't that bad on the stream, the audio. Pailang says, snap, sup, Mum? He would have lost his hand if he did that. Oh, Catch-22, let's put some logic science into this. What would have really happened in not fictionalized science, but actual science, if he did do the Iron Man trick? I'd love to hear this. And by the way, Beck won the poll 52% to Lewis's 48%, but that was pretty neck and neck. Yeah, talk me through that science of the Iron Man. He would have died.
Yeah, he would have died. Space is really cold, and his suit was pressurized. So the moment he poked a hole in it, he was right. It would have been rapid depressurization, and it probably just would have launched him in a straight line out the roof of the MAV, and they never would have seen him again.
And KP Dubs is saying his hand would have frozen in seconds.
And yeah, he would have lost his hand. Even if he survived, his hand would have been the worst case of frostbite recorded in human history.
Damn. Gaia says, yeah, well, the world wouldn't come together to save one American, so I'm not hung up on realistic things in this story. Oh, that's the sad truth of it all, isn't it? K. Frito says that part in the movie is so sci-fi. Even Michelle says, I was surprised he didn't lose his hand. I didn't even think about it. I suspended all. I don't even, my brain doesn't think in science. So Alvac says, space isn't cold. It just has no mass or heat. Also, his lungs would have frozen. His blood would have boiled. Holy shit. So basically, Iron Man would have become Superman, says Pailang. Pailang, we're going to get you in the Discord chat for this one. Cashman2 says, don't F with space. Space, says K. Frito. I know what you were doing. Gory says, I was just mad he didn't cut open both gloves. Yeah, well, there were no repercussions, were there? KP Dubs says, one line really ground my gears. Go on, KP Dubs. What was that one line?
Well, they're astronauts. They're professional. They've been trained for practically a decade for this mission. They know what to say, how to say it when they're communicating with NASA. And in the book, when they get Watney, Lewis says, hang on, I'm trying to find it here. Something like Houston, this is Ares, or this is Hermes actual, 6 crew safely aboard. When I read that, man, that hit me so hard. In the movie, they sensationalized it, and they're just like, we got him! And then everybody cheers. I actually hated that part.
Interesting.
I really thought the professional NASA commander line to Houston was far more powerful for me.
They did throw that line in later, but you hear it from Houston's side.
Oh, wow. So the onus was on them to write it. See, again, I would never have picked that if you didn't observe and share. That's why I love book club. I love that. All right, let's talk about, we're starting with the changes that were made. We've discussed that they swapped out Beck for retrieving Watney with Lewis. What were some other big changes? We'd mentioned earlier, Mama G brought up that the communication, that was one of the more suspenseful parts and well-written parts of the book, where Mark Watney drills and short circuits all the communication, no longer has it. And then, he basically is driving into a dust storm that is likely sure to kill him. And we, the reader, know that NASA knows what he's doing and is powerless to stop it from happening. That didn't make the cut of the movie. Catch-22 says the rovers were garbage. Thierry says the full rover travel at the end didn't make it. Catch-22 says it was literally the most disappointing thing in the film. Vaidin says, I really missed the last sandstorm, from the movie. But they had another one in the middle that was portrayed Whitney's fear of them. Oh, sorry. They had another one in the middle that portrayed Whitney's fear of them really well. Chris says they keep communications, no storm, no flip, no Morse code. Yeah, you're right. They did that first one. Huh. What are some other ones? Oh, Mum and Lisa bonding in the chat. Oh, that's cute. They did show a wheel get stuck. Whoa, a wheel. Instead of it being flipped, 2 of them flipped. I'm the gories today. You sure do. Got a case of the gories over here. The gories. Gory, in fact, agrees that the rovers, were garbage in the movie. Michelle says, all the gear that Mark had in the movie, that motorized winch, a pulley, a small crane that he had on his rover, lol. Yeah, you've got MacGyver Mark Watney in the book, and then you just got like all the gear with all the idea in the movie. Vaidin says there was a lot less family stuff for the crew, showing how much of a sacrifice they were making by going back to save Whitney. True. Lisa says, I didn't rewatch it yet, so I can't really pick out the differences. I'll probably watch it this weekend. Gory says, hey! That was delayed because we have verbiage to name. KPW says, Watney was MacGyver in the book and Tony Stark in the movie. Yeah. Terry says they also changed the final chapter movie. You see Watney as a NASA teacher. In the book, he meets Lewis in a diner to talk work possibilities. Adam's rating. Adam Vision, I saw you were playing some Rogue 78. Was that it? Rogue Legacy 2. Rogue Legacy 2. Is this your new Sunhaven? By the way, I played a lot of Sunhaven today. A lot. We are talking for all the ding-dongs that are coming in. Hello. Yes, you're streaming when I'm streaming. This never happens. Yay. Hi, Monkey Bars. Clever Girl says the drive to the map was... Whoa, everyone's chatting too much. I lost it. It was kind of anticlimactic in the movie. To the ding-dongs, what's up? I think we know each other. We're well acquainted at this stage. But on Wednesday evenings, I do a book chat. So we cover the first 2 Wednesdays, we'll cover the book. The first week, we do the first half of the book. The second week, we do the second half of the book. In this case, we are doing The Martian by Andy Weir. This is the second Wednesday, so we are doing all spoilers. And we also watched the movie. So we're comparing notes between the differences with the book and the movie. Adam Vision. So, Mum, I stream with Adam every single Friday and have for like a year and a half. Mum, can you say hi to Adam? I want you two to meet.
Hi, Adam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Adam, that's my mum.
Hi, Adam.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's really cute. Potentially Birdie's just gifted a sub to Book Club sub. Ah, sweet. Appreciate that one. Adam says, oh my God, what a legend. That's cute. Greetings to all the ding-dongs. Hi. And now you've all met my mum. Cashmere2 says, I did think Watney's moment of self-reflection in the book was very poignant and sorely missed in the movie. Another great observation. Ginger Chris, thank you so much for the biddies. Ginger Chris is also Aussie, but he's always in the wrong stream. Every time. He'll get here eventually. Probioticus Maximus has subbed for 12 months and they're on a 9-month streak. A full year. I know. What? Whatever. That's awesome. Also, I want to shout out to Probioticus Maximus, who is always so good about doing clips and streams. We love them. So thank you for that. B-Rock Vandal says, does Watney ever eat another potato when he returns to Earth? Lol. Aaron says, I like the movie ending. That was more poignant. That he's teaching the next crop of astronauts. I loved that moment in the movie. I thought that was a really good choice. I do want to bring, Adam says, please don't tell your mum anything about me, please. Oh, Adam, you're stoned? Hey, Mum, Adam's stoned. Is that okay? Mum? Just keeping quiet on that one.
Stoned on what?
Well, I'm guessing weed, Mum. That's what you usually get stoned on. That's the correlation. Oh, he had edibles. My bad. Edibles. There you go. Oh, Mum's typing in the chat. What about the humor in the book? OMG. Well, all right, Mum. Let's talk about the humor in the book.
Well, I thought it was funny. I thought the humour in the book saved the book because I think once you realise that there was a lot more complexity to Mark, that he wasn't sort of very one-dimensional, I think his humour and his irony and stuff was really like a breath of fresh air. But I agree with whoever said that they liked Annie because Annie, swore like a trooper. Yeah. It was quite a nice sort of contrast to all the blokes who were sort of all being a bit precious about things.
Yeah.
But I liked. I love the humour between the Hermes spacecraft and Watney. They knew each other very well. They really got each other. The conversation in the film where he's relaying, I think, via Beck or by Martinez, what he was going to say to Lewis. I mean, it was about disco, but it was about other things. And yes, right, I know that you left me behind. He was being very sarcastic and kind of confronting, but they obviously knew each other well enough for it to be okay and to be, they had a big connection. And I really liked that in the film, and I thought it was brought out very nicely in the film. But I think in the book you get that real strong sense, as somebody said before, these guys have worked together for a long time. They know each other incredibly well, but they also kind of like each other. They get on, they get each other.
Yeah, well,
absolutely enough.
And two of them are bonking as well when they're not even supposed to. But you're right, there is a camaraderie. Like if you're with someone on a mission 24/7, you start to really get in a good groove. In the book, I think it changes a little bit in the movie, but he's best friends with Martinez, and they have a really, really great sarcastic banter. But it's so funny because it's like, there's a moment in the movie where Michael Pena as Martinez says, I got short straw. I'm the one that has to talk to you. It's the first time we're talking since we left you behind. Yeah, we kind of did it on purpose. And so it was really, really kind of funny in that regard. But then when it came down to Lewis saying, I need 100% of yeses from everyone, that we're going to extend the mission by 500 days, that we're going to go back for him, that there are so many ways and chances that we can die. And he was the first one. Without question, he said yes. And we'd just seen a clip where he was talking to his wife, and he's got like a 3-year-old child that he obviously hasn't even seen for 2 years, and he's not going to see again until they're on their way to kindergarten. Catch22 says, Martinez is military though. Leave no man behind. Yeah, but he's leaving his family behind. Yeah, but I thought that was great. Chris says, don't do a barrel roll. Yes, Toast Poster said Mark made NASA call him Captain Blondebeard in the movie. Yes. Aaron says, I think his flaws were more that he took things, because Vaidin was like saying that he wanted Mark Watney to have a few more flaws. This guy can survive anything and he keeps his sense of humor. He's super resourceful, but what are his actual flaws? And Aaron's saying, I think his flaws were more that he took things for granted and got arrogant, and then the hub blows up and then he shorts out his communications. So there's consequence. But then he kind of pushes through for that as well. Guy says, I liked that chapter in the book where they're chatting with their families and basically everyone's family was pissed, but ultimately understood the decision. Because I think that they were saying, well, what if it was me? Wouldn't you want them to go back for me if I was left behind? And it's like, yeah, and I'm grateful for it. Guy says, like Johansson's dad, why didn't we raise you to be more selfish? Yeah. Yes, Chris, I did want to touch on this. Something that they very much left out of the movie, but I remember when I read it in the book, I was like, are they literally talking about nominating Johansson to live, knowing that there's not enough food? They all end their lives very quickly to preserve that food for Johansson, and then understand that Johansson will eat them. There's that moment when Johansson's on the call to her dad going, don't worry about me, no matter what, I'm going to survive. And he's like, what do you mean? I've been nominated to survive. If anything goes wrong, I will live. And then he talks about food. There's not enough. Well, how are you going to live if there's not enough food? Well, that's not the only food source. And I was like, holy shit. But then really loved the fact that like moments later, Martinez is like, do you like Mexican meat? Do you think I'm going to taste good? You know, so they have to joke about it. But that was by far the darkest moment in the book where it's like, what are you chuckling about, Mum? You've got something to say?
I quite agree. I was thinking, oh my God, you know, they're threatening to eat each other, you know, and then I thought, oh, this is just being funny. And then when I realized later they'd actually talked about it, and I thought, oh, it's real.
Yeah, but I think this is a really great time to tell you, Mum, I live by myself. If I die in my apartment, Zelda's going to eat me. I know that for a fact. Zell will eat my corpse, especially if no one notices that I've been dead for a few days. Like, yeah, Mum says, thanks, Maude. Well, I had to think about it, you know? I had to be realistic. We went through a pandemic. She'll look really cute doing it, says Vaidin. Just like an Ewok. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, go Catch 22.
Sorry to interrupt. Did anybody notice that this is now the second book where Weir writes about eating human flesh?
Cannibalism,
I'm
yeah.
really starting to worry about this guy.
But it's okay because he's really funny.
Oh, okay. If you're funny, you can eat people? Is that how it works?
Well, I mean, he talks about survival. And I think that obviously like oxygen, food source, heat, they're all very, very necessary. You know, in Project Hail Mary, they grow his own meat for him to eat. But in this instance, they just don't have enough food. And I always kind of wonder, like, when NASA's preparing for any case scenario, why isn't there just a fuck ton of food? Anyway, sorry for swearing, Mum. Aaron says, I loved film Martinez, and Watney's saying that they still don't know what the other person does. Martinez says Watney is not real science, or botany is not real science. Yeah, they've got such a great rapport with each other. And he's like, I know what everyone does. I don't even know what Martinez does. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I've known him for ages. Got no idea what he does. Yeah, it was a really funny moment. Pailang says, take your lifelong meds, Morty. Yeah. Terry says, small dog, tall gal. Zelda's going to survive for a long time. Zelda's going to be like half werewolf by the time they try to recover my body. Lord Higor, too. Thanks for the follow. Welcome to Book Chat. We're talking about The Martian. Not only the book, but the film. So if you got anything you want to talk, we're Spoiler City here. KPW says, oh yeah, remember the 70s comedy, Soylent Green? Mm-hmm. Gallows humor is what it's called, says Aaron. And Vaidin says, clearly comedians are on the top of the food chain. Yes. Maybe Maude purposely wanting us to read books with cannibalism, says Gaia. Yes, this is my plan all along. I exclusively eat cheese, but okay. Steel Lungs says it's just a bit of interspecies protein exchange. K Frito says Weir's a logical guy. Pailang says they need a Macca's in space. There you go. Alvac says I think you would need more space for water than food to survive. There you go. Clever Girl says weight and space are huge considerations when packing for space. Yeah. And Michelle says food is often heavy or bulky and a lot of it has shelf life. It's always a logistical problem. Hey, backpacker over here. Yeah. And then Chris says that liftoff becoming the fastest human ever. They played it up in the movie more, but it was funny. I do want to go back to something that Truscorn says, which is the casting. Let's talk about that casting. Was Matt Damon a good Mark Watney? My only gripe is that if there's 10 years of training to be an astronaut, technically Johansson's supposed to be the hot one. I pictured Lewis as a woman in her late 40s, almost like early 50s, but like in her 40s, especially because of the love of disco. That timeline checks out a little bit. JG021V, thanks for the follow. Welcome to Book Chat. Yeah, Michelle says, everyone's hot in this movie. Everyone's hot. I had a bit of a problem with that. And they're all young as well. Beck, the doctor. Oh, yeah, if he takes his shirt off, you can grate some cheese on his abs. They'll go. But then again, Catch22 says, smart people can be young and hot. Astrohots. They're now called Astrohots. Thank you, KP Dubs. Always with the pun. Get that man some pun points. But in terms of NASA, in terms of all the casting that we had, including, and someone had this question, Rich Purnell. What did we think of the casting here? Anyone have any thoughts that they want to unmute and talk about? We got Chiwetel Ejiofor as Vincent Kapoor. I thought it was Vinket, so they've changed his name. Eddie Ko as Gyo Ming. We got Donald Glover as Rich Purnell. Benedict Wong as Bruce Ng. Mackenzie Davis as Mindy Park. I really like that casting. Askell Henny as Dr. Vogel. Sebastian Stan as Dr. Beck. Kate Mara as Beth Johansson. Sean Bean as Mitch Henderson. Mum's already said that was absolute bullshit. Michael Penier is Rick Martinez. Jeff Daniels is Teddy. Kristen Wiig is Annie, the PR Bish. Jessica Chastain is Commander Lewis. And Matt Damon is Mark Watney. I guess we should start with Matt Damon. Mum's got some thoughts. What the fuck, Mum? www.watch-mark-watney-die.com. Is this sadistic humor that I'm witnessing? What's that about? Watch Mark Watney die. And why is everyone like it? Oh, it was in the book. Okay, thank God. Holy shit. Okay, Mum's thoughts. Mum, do you want to unmute? Stop typing. You've got thoughts about the casting. Let's go.
Yeah, so it was book humour, Maude. That was what we were talking about. The fact that Mark Watchley was saying, he realised that everybody in the world is watching his possible demise. And so he coined the phrase www.watchmarkwatneydie.com.
Got it. I'm really glad we cleared that up. I really am relieved.
That's all right. Yes, it is. But it is a dark and gloomy humour. I thought Jessica Chastain, and I mean, I like her as an actor very much, but I thought she just was completely unrealistic. I thought she was sort of, I don't know, it didn't work for me. I thought she was too young. I thought she was too pretty. I thought she just didn't ring true in the role of the commander.
But you loved Bruce Ng.
I loved him. I thought he was fantastic.
Benedict Wong. I'm only saying this because Mum, you're here. But last Monday night, I was partying with Benedict Wong.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's a sweetheart. Tell him I liked him in his role.
Done. I'll let him know. Who's got thoughts on the casting? Mum, mute. Thank you. Who's got thoughts on the casting? Who wants to unmute? You know what? I'm going to nominate. Who haven't I heard from in a bit. J Bunt Rock. Did you watch the movie? J Bunt Rock, come on down.
Yeah. I just finished it right before book club.
Hell yeah.
I liked the assistant coach from Ted Lasso pops up. He's operating Pathfinder.
Oh, yes.
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 I was like, hey, it's that guy.
Nate, with an American accent this time.
Yeah, and other than that, like, I agree with people that kind of Sean Bean and Jeff Daniels were kind of the same guy, other than just they follow the script.
Yeah. Yep. Who'd you like? What casting nailed it?
I was okay with Matt Damon. I love Donald Glover, so I don't know if it's good casting or just that I love Donald Glover. Absolutely.
All right. Actually, you know what? Colleen's talking about that, and Thierry is as well. Thierry said, I thought Donald Glover imbued Abed from Community, which is perfect, I guess, for the character in The Martian. Because Abed is one of the better portrayals of someone on the spectrum that we've seen in sort of television. Pepe Gapogs, welcome to Book Chat. We're talking about The Martian, spoiler city, so feel free to go for it. Glover was great casting. He played the awkward super genius, perfectly, says Catch-22. And Colleen says, I thought Donald Glover seemed to portray someone on the spectrum, which is the way I pictured him. And Piling says, I thought Kristen Wiig needed way more screen time, like a whole side movie or something. I agree with you, Thierry, that I think Donald Glover's muse was Abed, big time in that, which is kind of like, intense stares. I liked how they talked about it in the book where he's just like, hey, you're going to have to tell me if I'm being a nuisance because I can't tell. You just tell me if I'm not getting it. And I like that kind of communication. I think if we all had that kind of threshold, which is just removing assumption when talking to someone on the spectrum, you just can't assume that what you're saying is common sense and is easy to apply, sort of like a social intellect to be able to understand it all. Aaron, you got thoughts? Aaron, you have thoughts? Aaron, you accidentally unmuted, or Aaron, you have thoughts?
Sorry, I had a little internet trouble. I have a thunderstorm going on, and my internet router decided to not work.
Well,
so I had to stick on the phone.
You're on the spot now. What did you think of the casting?
I am a victim of my own situation. I actually did have thoughts on casting. I was just waiting my turn. But Kate Mara was probably the only one I had an issue with, only because she was like the one who played Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with her mostly because the film didn't really do much with her.
Yeah.
And you got more character development with her through Mark's / Matt Damon's like interaction with her stuff. Like you understood her more through that than her actual interactions.
True. And you only kind of understood Vogel and Martinez through their family relations. But like, Beck and Vogel, I think they cut some stuff. Because you're right, there was like a lot of things lacking.
Like I get it. It's Watney's story, so you want to focus on the film more on his perspective and stuff like that, and not on the Hermes. But again, if you have these big name actors and actresses, like
give them something to work with. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. We got a first-time chatter in the house. Snowlay says, I liked all the Chicagoisms in the book and was disappointed that they removed them from the movie. I'm guessing you're from Chicago because you got them. Mark Watney would talk about Chicago because that's where he was from. It was his alma mater. Was it alma mater? I don't know. I didn't go to uni. Much to Mum's chagrin. Mum, do you still hate the fact that I do not have a college education? You're live on Book Chat. Do you still see me as a disappointment?
I'm not answering any of this, Maude.
Smart, Mom. Smart.
My daughter went into entertainment? That's not a degree. Yeah, well, Mum was even considering getting her doctorate, loves studying that one. We all know how I feel about it. Sean Bean got to go to the meeting of Elrond twice, says Gory. Alma mater. There you go. Alma, not a carer. That's the worst pun I've done today. Guy says most of the characters were shown more through their things. Johansson's a nerd and had the codes. Martinez is religious. Lewis loves disco. Vogel's a family man. And there's just not much about Beck at all. Don't worry, he's hot. That was terrible. Toaster Poster says, I want to take a tour of JPL. Agree. Catch-22 is 100% on the same page as Mum. I like Jeff Daniels as Teddy, but Sean Bean was only there for the Elrond thing. KP Dub says, Bean and Daniels, who here would not picture the head of NASA and the head of NASA mission as really boring by the book kind of people. Yeah. All right, so casting on the whole is pretty... What's the alma mater with you? That's a lot better, Jimmy. That was a lot better of a pun. Catch-22 says, I was thinking about this for whatever reason. I just pictured Mads Mikkelsen as Vogel. Oh, I like. I am a Michael Pena stan. I absolutely love him. If you want to see him in another movie where he's sort of in a public service sort of job, public servant? End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh, don't watch it on a plane. You will cry hysterically and people will actually think that there's something wrong with you and be concerned. Kind of lost potential with comedic possibilities between Wiig and Daniels. I have a personal issue with Kristen Wiig. She was fine in this. They obviously cut a lot of the swearing, which was what made her interesting. I liked Chiwetel Ejiofor as Vincent Kapoor, who was very much supposed to be a Hindu in the book. His name was Venkat Kapoor, sorry. And they had to change the question about, do you believe in God? I believe in many gods. I'm Hindu. Do you believe in God? Oh, yeah, I'm from, what did he say? Bangladesh? What did he say? He's like, yeah, I'm both this and that. So it was interesting that they had to kind of change that. And I wonder if they did it because they did want Chiwetel Ejiofor for that role. Clever Girl says, everyone finds their own way. Not all my boys went to college and the ones that did went a lot later. I could do psychology maybe, Mum. Would that be weird if I also did psychology? We wouldn't be able to have another conversation again. I'm sensing hostility, which is probably fueled from the time that you're a child. Sorry if you have thoughts about that. Gaia says, I wonder who folks would cast instead of the castings that they didn't care for. Like, instead of Kristen Wiig, who? Oh, Baptist and Hindu. Thank you, Vaidin. I got my bachelor's at 37, says Catch-22. Well, Catch-22, if you want a mum, he'll be proud of you. She's in the chat. Mum, are you proud of Catch-22? He's an engineer. Mum doesn't play along. She's not a yes and with me. But she does say in the chat, I always love Jeff Daniel, although he played the same role as in the newsroom. I agree. So do other people. Michelle actually posted a photo of Andy Weir on the back of the book. He looks like he could be Matt Damon's brother. Agree. That's really close. Pylang says, oh, they bond over psychoanalyzing each other. Precious. Love you, Mum. Mum says, lovely. I love to hear. And oh, Mum, this is like her being proud of Catch-22. I love to hear engineer perspectives, but they're not saying much. I don't know. What?
I can say more.
Oh.
Not to hog the chat.
Oh, got it. Go on, Catch-22. Make my mum proud. Tell us about your degree.
I already did this when I introduced myself for PHM.
But now my mum's here.
I started college way late because I knew if I'd have done it when I graduated high school in the year 2000, I would have failed miserably. So I screwed around and did worthless retail jobs. Not worthless, but dead-end retail jobs, in my opinion, until I finally got angry and went to school. And then I got my degree, but I was 37 when I graduated. And I'll be 40 on Tuesday.
Tuesday! Oh, that's
Yay,
soon. The big 4-0. You've got some of your questions in the doc, though, on topic. Something that was shown in the movie that didn't occur to me reading it, though probably should have, was how incredibly malnourished Watney was by the time he got to the MAV. There are some things that I think Ridley Scott visually absolutely catered for. I think
was one of them.
Yeah, when you actually get to see him wasting away, which of course he did. He was
bothered me.
But he was exerting himself by doing all of this physical labor and on half the calories that he should have been. So, yeah.
Yeah, it bothered me because he should have never been able to put that spacesuit on. he would have been so weak
Yeah.
or malnourished that half the stuff that he did, he wouldn't have been able to do.
No, because using your brain from last week, he would only weigh like...
Everything weighs less because of gravity, I know. Well done, Maude.
I just outsmarted the engineer with science. Not really. I just remembered what you said last time. But yeah, Piling's like, she's learning. Yay! Go me. Are you proud of me, Mum? Yes, she said my little scientist. I need to hear it though, Mum. Tell me you're proud of me.
Maude, I'm very proud of you being a little scientist and loving science.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, the other thing that I felt really, really helped me watching the movie, describing spacecrafts, the MAV, the rovers, I really struggled to, because I don't know space travel enough, that when you drop in rover, I'm like, okay, it could look like this. I was thinking of the Mass Effect vehicle, but like the MAV, that little rocket thing, I really struggled to know what that was. Or like the HAB. So the inflatable, but also like, you know, that room, I pictured like the 1960s or 1970s series MASH, I think it was 1970s, 80s, 70s, Mum would know, what the bunkers looked like, you know, very, very desolate. There wasn't much there. But then, of course, yeah, it's a NASA program that cost millions and millions of dollars. Of course it looked better. But I think that seeing what the vessels, what the transport, what the inside of these places looked like, and keep in mind that I don't think the book ever discussed it, but the movie did. They called it 70s and 80s. Thank you, Aaron. They said that it was in the year 2035. So it's, 13 years away? But I think being able to see it and the sets and the design was really, really important for me to get my head around it. Mum said 70s mainly. That is correct. You can stay. Mum, what did you think about Rich Purnell? Obviously being on the spectrum, he is someone who just crunched numbers but didn't understand, again, sort of like the social norms.
Social mores of working with a bunch of scientists.
Exactly. He doesn't
I
realize
he was a great little character. He had a very good screen presence, and he I mean, this is a world of geeks and nerds, I guess. I mean,
Mum,
the whole of NASA is...
You're in one right now as well.
Well, perhaps, but it's a sort of this is the scientific sort of nerds. So you'd expect people to be seriously focused and seriously fixated on what they're doing and excel in what they're doing. But there's the super guy. He sort of came out with, this is the extreme super version of what they were experiencing and what they were living in NASA. So I thought he was great. I really liked him.
He literally needed a supercomputer to compute the maths that he was trying to get to.
But I like the fact that his boss says, "You realise I'm your boss, don't you?"
Exactly.
Because I don't care. I've got to do this. I've got to go important. On holidays now.
Yeah,
I love that.
And like, he just lives and breathes. Like, he wakes up and sleeps, and coffee fuels him, and his place is just like a mess, and he sleeps in the office. But you're right, he hyperfixated on this thing, and they were like, the thing I asked you for 2 weeks ago, you haven't done it. And he's like, no, I know. All right, well, could I go on a vacation? Sure, I think that'd be a good idea. All right, it starts now. I need the supercomputer. I have to do this thing. And, understanding that what a vacation is to many people and what a vacation is to him are very, very different. But he saved the world, and he got a maneuver named after him. The scene where he demonstrated the Purnell maneuver was pretty hilarious, says Vaidin. Yeah, you, what's your name? Teddy. Yeah, I'm the director of NASA. Okay, can you stand there? Grabs the pen out of his pocket.
That was very good fun.
Like, that shit doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, because that's a social construct, hierarchy, and who you should be scared of and intimidated by. And I think it's like, when that doesn't apply, it's hilarious. Yeah. Alvac says, does knowing the names of all Pokemon qualify as being super smart? What number is Vulpix? Don't look it up. Just tell me right now, please. K. Frida says, yeah, the stapler scene. Cashway2 says, but was it used during the Battle of Tanab? What does that mean?
It's a Lando Calrissian reference.
Oh, I totally
Return of the
dismissed
Jedi.
that.
He's a general because of his maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. Donald Glover,
Right.
Lando Calrissian, and Purnell maneuver.
That went over my head. I didn't like the Solo movie though.
Me either. I thought Donald Glover was good in it, but I was not a fan of that movie.
I thought he was good in it too. So there you go. Vaidin says the future of the crew probably going back into space. Vaidin, I'd love to hear that question and talk about it.
All right, sure. Hey, Maude.
Hello.
So basically, yeah, at the end, they just discuss about talking about going back into space again. Because when they get, as they're going back in the first place and doing the maneuver to save him, they're all talking about how, like, they're never going to go back again. You know, they'll be basically, NASA will never let them go back. And then they don't really want to go back. But then Lewis talks to them and explains to them that, like all of them, they all love space. And they all go back in their backyards and will look up at the stars. Because it's like the childhood dream. So even though they had this, like, traumatic experience, like a crazy experience that no one's ever had, they still love it and they want to go back at some point. So, you know, it's like that part was probably one of the most emotional parts of the movie or in the book in general.
Oh, did anyone cry watching this movie? I cried so much. I was really tired. Oh yeah, at the end, I cried like three different times. B-Rock Vandal says my wife did. Jimmy says I did not cry. Did anyone shed some tears for this one? Michelle said I cried both in the book and the movie. Yeah, he gets you, doesn't he? Mum says no. I call bullshit. You got a cold heart in there, woman.
I did not cry. I got goosebumps, but I didn't cry.
What part gave you goosebumps?
I think when he was going into the sort of the valley of the shadow of death, you know, that and the sandstorm was coming, I felt a little bit goosebumpy.
Right, yeah. I felt it more. I mean, I was listening to the audiobook and the performance was great, but I feel like for me, the score gets me. Like music really it manipulates you. It tells you what to feel. And so when they get you that way, I'm like, it basically is like, okay, it's time to cry. And I'm like, okay, all right, sounds good. But yeah, I cried a lot. Toasty Poster cried when China decided to help. KP Dub says I cried at different times in the movie than I did the book. Oh, that's really interesting. Gory says I cried when the potato harvest was lost. Losing potatoes would never be fun. Thierry says I cried at the end of Saving Private Ryan, but not for The Martian. Guy says movie scores make me cry all the time. Yeah. Cash22 says I definitely did not cry, but I did have to rub my eyes. Chris says I do like him teaching, showing the people that would go to Mars after him give the skills to make it. I wept. Michelle says I liked him teaching at the end of the movie, but I thought the book ending showed him having troubles adjusting to Earth life was actually more touching in a true to life way. Ooh. Play the Board says I cried at the movie when Mark was in his bunk during the storm after the airlock blew. Oh, when it just hits him. Oh, it was good. I liked Ridley Scott's directing in it. I thought he did a really, really good job. I thought that you're right. You have to have hope with Mark Watney. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, you're just waiting to die. And that's like such a desolate, awful feeling. Catch22 says, I cried at the end of The Force Awakens. Does that count? Oh, I cried for the wrong reasons. I was like, why did they make that movie? Vaidin says, I guess I did somehow happen to get dust in my eyes a couple of times in the movie. Yeah, sand, it's coarse, it gets everywhere. B-Rock Vandal says, Ridley was the perfect choice for director. Jack Skells says, Space Pirate. Exactly. We got 3 more minutes to finish it up. We have to still vote. No, we're going to announce it, aren't we? Let's announce the winner. If you haven't done it yet, here's our Goodreads link. Come join it. We have a book club. All you have to do is select join group. We have a poll that is the next book suggestion. I think if you... how do we find the poll? Oh, it's telling me.
The poll already ended, so it's probably not going to show up on the main page.
It's not going to show up. Do we have the results? Lisa, do you want to announce the results?
Yeah, the winner was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon.
Alrighty, we're doing it.
Which is a big chunky book.
So Lisa made a really great point. This is going to be a thick, with 2 C's, book. B-Rug Vandal says, I've got the paperback. It's huge. But the good news is Next month is a long month. There's going to be five Wednesdays. So we've got a little bit of luxury here. We're going to give you the first week off so that you can read the Obi-Wan book for Nerdist, and then you can have a bit of a breather and get started because it's going to be a thick book. So we're going to meet up on the 8th and the 15th of June, which gives us a week off on the 22nd to then do Nerdist on the 29th. So we're not going to start on the 1st, which is the first Wednesday. We're going to bump it back a week to give more time to read this book. Cash22 says it's going to be an unpopular, but the best film score, in my opinion, was Friday Night Lights. Oh, okay. All right. I don't think it's unpopular. You're not wrong. Everyone's talking about the best soundtracks that made you cry in reading. And Mum says, I loved the disco music. Hell yeah, you did. Alrighty, so that's the book. We've locked it in. We'll have more details for you in reading. We can show you what it looks like, what that book's all about. I'm going to get the audio book version of that one, and it'll be the 8th that we'll see each other next. There you go. The Martian by Andy Weir, done and dusted. Yet another book done for book chat. Excited to continue it on. Lisa says for June 8th, read to chapter 38. Stop at 39. Stop when you get to chapter 39. Mama Garrett, thank you so much for joining us for The Martian and chatting. How was it?
It was good. It was great. It's pouring with rain here again, but it was great. Thank you guys for having me along.
You're so cute. You're very, very welcome, Mama G. I'll see everyone soon. We should raid to another streamer on this wonderful Wednesday night. Who should we raid? Thank you, Colleen, for jumping on in again. Always a pleasure. Steven Spawn is. David Blue is. Alrighty. I don't think I've done for David Blue. Raid. Whoops. What this is it's a way to pass on the audience. Whoa, okay. I saw it. Patrick Swayze, I saw it. For any headphone users, apologize. I saw it. No, I saw it, so I was waiting to see it. Wise Man Sphere's bigger. Thank God for muted Twitch. Alrighty, go say hi to David Blue. He's got a really cool intro video for when he gets rated. It's a real delight to see it. Everyone have a great time. I'll see you for Nerdist Book Club. The last Wednesday of this month, we are listening or reading, the Obi-Wan Legends book. Should be a good time. The series launches at the end of the month too, so we're going to get a lot of Obi. Thank you, everyone. See you. You're welcome. Get out of it. Thank you, Mama.